Zagreb, Croatia. On the eve of the United Nations General Assembly, Israel has sharpened its diplomatic message to Europe and the wider world. Speaking in Croatia, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar delivered one of his firmest warnings yet, insisting that recognizing a Palestinian state would not pave the way to peace, but instead destabilize the Middle East. His remarks, coming just days before world leaders gather in New York, underscore Israel's growing anxiety as momentum builds among several nations to extend recognition to Palestine. Standing beside his Croatian counterpart, Saar wasted little time in framing the debate in stark terms. He declared, "The Palestinian state does not simply threaten Israel's existence. The current initiative to recognize the so-called Palestinian state also harms regional stability. It rewards Hamas for the October 7th massacre. It serves as an incentive for Hamas to continue its war. This initiative will not bring us closer to peace or security." Those words echoed across Europe, where the conversation about Palestinian recognition has been steadily gaining traction. For Saar, however, the issue is not symbolic. It is existential. By tying recognition to Hamas's deadly October 7th attack, Israel is attempting to draw a clear line. Rewarding violence undermines prospects for peace and encourages further bloodshed. Saar's framing is deliberate, positioning unilateral recognition as not only a blow to Israel, but a direct threat to the region's fragile stability. The Israeli Foreign Minister then laid out his conditions for genuine peace. He explained, "We will be able to achieve progress and a reliable peace process when we see the deradicalisation of the Palestinian society and political system, and then only in a bilateral context we can get closer to peace, to stability, to security in the Middle East." This insistence on bilateralism is rooted in decades of Israeli policy. Since the Oslo Accords of the 1990s, Israel has argued that Palestinian statehood must emerge from direct negotiations, not international decrees. In Saar's telling, outside recognition erodes incentives for compromise and removes responsibility from Palestinian leadership to reform its institutions. By invoking deradicalisation, he pointed to what Israel views as the central barrier, the continued dominance of militant ideologies that reject coexistence. Saar also made a point to highlight European allies who share Israel's scepticism. He said, "It is very important to continue with this path of countries like Germany, like Italy, like Croatia, which understand that peace will be achieved in a bilateral context and not by decisions in Paris or Madrid." By naming Germany, Italy and Croatia, Saar drew a diplomatic map of Israel's current European support base, while implicitly criticising others. In France and Spain, where political momentum for recognition has grown, Israel fears a snowball effect that could isolate its position internationally. Saar's choice of words was not accidental. Paris and Madrid symbolize, in Israel's eyes, an approach that prioritizes international gestures over hard security realities. This European divide plays directly into the drama expected at the UN General Assembly. Several nations, including Ireland, Spain and Norway, have already signalled they will support Palestinian recognition. Others remain undecided, but pressure is mounting. For Israel, such moves represent a dangerous precedent. If enough countries extend recognition, it could normalise the Palestinian cause internationally, even in the absence of a negotiated settlement. That, in turn, could embolden Hamas, weaken Israel's leverage and complicate any future talks. At the same time, Arab states are closely watching how Europe moves. Jordan and Egypt, longtime partners of Israel, fear that premature recognition could inflame tensions and spark unrest within their own borders. In the Gulf, Saudi Arabia has made progress toward normalization, with Israel conditional on progress toward Palestinian rights. If Europe accelerates recognition, Riyadh may feel compelled to harden its stance. In this sense, what was said in Zagreb resonates far beyond the Adriatic. It is also heard in Amman, Cairo and Riyadh. Israel's opposition is not only strategic but historical. For decades, it has argued that unilateral recognition undermines the painstaking process of negotiation. The Oslo framework, though largely stalled, remains the foundation of Israel's vision of a two-state outcome. Saar's rhetoric fits this tradition. Statehood, he insists, cannot be declared by foreign parliaments or UN resolutions, but only achieved through direct dialogue after Palestinians show readiness for coexistence. Critics of Israel see things differently. For them, recognition is not a reward for violence, but a necessary step to restart a long-frozen peace process. Without recognition, they argue, Palestinians remain powerless at the negotiating table, perpetuating an imbalance that has stifled progress for decades. To these voices, international recognition is not destabilization, but justice long delayed. That debate, whether recognition helps or hinders peace, is now the central question of this diplomatic season. Saar's statements in Zagreb were a clear attempt to shape the narrative before leaders convene in New York. By stressing stability, by invoking the October 7th attacks, and by rallying friendly European capitals, Israel is pressing its case forcefully. Recognition at this stage, it says, risks chaos, not reconciliation. But there is also symbolism in the setting. Croatia, a smaller EU state with strong ties to Israel, became the stage for Saar's message. By standing beside the Croatian Foreign Minister, Saar underscored that Israel is not only lobbying its largest allies, but also cultivating support among countries that may not dominate headlines, but still cast votes in international forums. It was a reminder that in diplomacy, every voice counts. The timing is equally significant. Just days remain before the UN General Assembly begins. Draft resolutions are being finalised, speeches are being written, and alliances are being tested. In this atmosphere, every public statement takes on heightened weight. Saar's words, carried on the cameras in Zagreb, were designed to travel from the Adriatic to Brussels, from Brussels to New York, and from New York back to the capitals of the Middle East. His warning is clear: unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state, far from solving the conflict, risks hardening divisions and destabilizing the region. For Israel, peace will only come through bilateral agreements and deep political change within Palestinian society. For others, recognition may be the only way to break the deadlock. As the UN General Assembly approaches, these opposing visions will clash more directly than ever before. In the days ahead, the world will see whether Saar's message gains traction among undecided nations or whether the momentum toward recognition accelerates despite Israel's warnings. Either way, what began as a press conference in Zagreb now echoes across continents, a sign of how deeply contested and how globally resonant the question of Palestinian statehood has become.
But the Palestinian state does not simply threaten Israel's existence. The current initiative to recognize the so-called Palestinian state also harms regional stability. It rewards Hamas for the October 7 massacre. It serves as an incentive for Hamas to continue its war. This initiative will not bring us closer to peace or security. We will be able to achieve progress and a reliable peace process when we will see deradicalization of the Palestinian society and political system, and then only in a bilateral context we can get closer to peace, to stability, to security in the Middle East. It is very important to continue with this path of countries like Germany, like Italy, like Croatia, which understand that peace will be achieved in a bilateral context and not by decisions in Paris or Madrid.